And we are live. Welcome, mystery and thriller fans. I'm your on-air host and author, Sara DiVello, and I am so excited to welcome tonight New York Times best-selling author Ace Atkins, here to give us the inside scoop on his brand new book out tomorrow, Don't Let the Devil Ride. Ace, welcome to Mystery and Thriller Mavens. Tell us about this book.
Thanks, Sarah. Thank you for having me on and welcoming to everybody here. Don't Let the Devil Ride. This is my 30th book, so I'm very excited that this is out, not just from the milestone of the 30th, but this is a story that I've been wanting to tell for a long time, set in my neck of the woods, which is I live in the deep South. I am very close to Memphis, Tennessee. That's kind of my home city, even though I live in Oxford, Mississippi. I'm very close to Memphis, and the story is about a woman who's a stay-at-home mom that has two kids and a seemingly loving husband, a very successful guy that has gone missing before, and she's thinking perhaps maybe he's having an affair, but this time he's gone for over a week, and she starts getting very nervous, and she turns to a guy. These are all equal characters. There's not one main character that you're following. It's an ensemble piece. A man named Porter Hayes, who is a legendary detective in Memphis and a friend of the character Addison McKellar, the woman whose husband has disappeared, to help her find out not only where is her husband gone, but also she has questions of who is he really. And so this whole idea of this novel started with the idea of, I think we'll hit home with some people, is do we really know the people that we marry? I'm saying to a lot of friends that have been divorced. I think they've woken up with the epiphany of saying, well, who is this person? And I've known them for the years, but how well do I really know them? So that's the core of this book.
Well, I'm not going to lie, Ace. I did think to myself, I should go to my husband's new office. He changed jobs a year ago, and I have yet to be. I used to go to his old office to meet him for lunch or, bring him birthday cookies or treats or whatever.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, I haven't been to that new office. And Addison, there's a big scene where she goes to her husband's office, except the office doesn't exist. And I thought to myself, I should, do a little drive-by.
I don't want to stir up any worries or anything for you, Sarah, but I will say that it's always a good idea to check on people. I've written about as a journalist. I've written about people that have been involved in con schemes and nefarious business, or have been criminals and white collar criminals, what they've done. And I've always wondered about their spouses, of how deeply did they know what they were involved in, or was there that wall between them? But yeah, there's a pivotal event fairly early on, I think in the first, really from the very beginning of the book, where Addison is looking for answers, so she naturally goes to his place of work, a very respected address in Memphis, a place where a lot of people have their offices, and shows up there and finds, instead of a construction company owned by her husband, it's an interior design firm that's been there for 3 years. And there's a lot of questions about, I imagine, how does she not know this? How does she not know? But there's a pretty thick wall that her husband has created to insulate her from what he's really doing.
Well, it's interesting because, first I just want to welcome everybody, because we are broadcasting live to 6 different destinations across Facebook and YouTube. So, hey, mystery and thriller loving friends, no matter where you're watching from, you're in the right place. This is the right time. It is Mystery Monday, because Mondays can be murder. We're going to make them a little less painful and get your week off to a killer start. So if you've been here before, you know the drill. And if you're new, welcome. We're so happy to have you. Here's the drill. Every Monday, I give you my handpicked featured author, and you get to ask them anything. So ask Ace about his incredible 30-book body of work, asking about his writing process, ask about this Addison character, anything you'd like to know. Just get those questions going in the comments, because I know I have a lot as well. Let's jump in. Erica's joining us from YouTube. She says, hola from Mexico. Hola, Erica. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Kim is joining us from Facebook. She says, hello, book friends. Hey, Kim. Welcome to the conversation. We have Sharon joining us from YouTube saying, hi, Sarah and Ace. Hey, Sharon. Margaret joining us from Portland, Oregon, saying, hello, I want to know how many times people think your name is Trace Adkins and ask for a song.
That has happened. Some people, they do get a little bit confused, but hopefully musically not so much. But yeah, no, I've had that.
What rhymes with murder? What rhymes with mayhem? Yeah, exactly. My own husband is watching in the audience, and he is LOLing at my comment. Margaret's saying I better trust but verify. Not bad advice there, Margaret. I think that is right. Randy's joining us from YouTube saying, hi, Sarah. I've known my wife for 50 years. I think I know her, LOL. Well, so did Addison, Randy, but it turns out Addison did not. So, Ace, was it one particular friend's divorce that that sparked this idea, or what? You said this is the book you've always wanted to write. What does that mean?
Well, I mean, I don't mean to say this is always the book that I wanted to write. It's just been kind of germinating for a while, and I think part of it, you hear the stories. I think with friends and multiple friends that they are getting a divorce. It's usually not a very pleasant story. I mean, occasionally it is, and sometimes it's amicable, but then sometimes you hear these just really heinous stories about the person they're divorcing and what they're going through. And for me as a writer, I kept on thinking, what if all this was true, and what if they were even worse than they thought that they were. And then there's also a point where, as a journalist, I was writing about people that got involved in criminal charges and were arrested by the feds. And many times it seemed like the spouses did not know what they were doing. And I think that was true in many of the cases. And there was one case in particular, which I can't mention, but involved a guy who was a con man involved in some pretty shady business practices. And I think that his wife had no idea what he was up to. And I thought, what would that be like to, not only what is it like to be the person running these schemes, and how you would be able to live with yourself, and how would you be able to, create, have a family life and have children and have a wife. But what would that like to be the person that is married to them, to finally have this wall of lies fall on them and see there. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not really giving anything away. It's just not going to. But I mean, there's not a neat ending in this book. There's not all of a sudden of, oh, by the way, I was doing this for UNICEF, or I was doing this for, really good reasons. I know that there's been books like that. There have been books I know that have started off with, oh my gosh, who's my husband and what is he doing? And then later it's like, oh, he was really a great person and everything's fine. And I really love. That's not one of these books. This guy's really a terrible, terrible person.
Well, it's interesting because, since I started this series, and I think I've done over 450 interviews, and some of them have been with real life CIA agents, one real life sniper, a couple of analysts, detectives. And one of the questions that I always ask them is, how do they keep that wall up? Because you have to keep it so secret. And how do you basically have this double life? I don't know if I've interviewed any con men yet. Maybe we'll figure that out later. But it's really interesting stuff to consider. Wanda's joining the conversation from Facebook. She says, hi from West Virginia. I've lived 30 plus years in Memphis.
Oh,
love that.
Yeah, interesting picture there too, Wanda.
Yeah. Elizabeth is saying, you better do a quick drive-by, Sarah. I will. Don't think I won't, Elizabeth. Don't think I won't. Detective DiVello is reporting for duty. Robin says, this sounds juicy. Oh, it is juicy, Robin. Don't you worry. And Ace is coming on to give us the inside scoop. The book isn't even out yet, y'all. Ace is coming on tonight to give us the inside scoop and take all of your most burning questions. We're so excited to have him. Renee says, hi, Sarah and Ace from Southeast Florida. Welcome to the conversation, Renee. So good to have you. Robin says, hello, all. John's joining us from Northeast Ohio. Hey, John, good to have you here. Renee says she thinks that happens more often than we think, where the husband and the wife doesn't know what the other one is really doing. Interesting. Alan joining from Facebook saying, no neat ending is the start of a sequel, ?
Alan would know. He would know. He would know those secrets. I don't truly trust this guy. I'm not really sure. I don't know. He's got kind of a nefarious look to him. Not really sure.
Well, book one of perhaps a sequel, we don't know. Ace is keeping us in suspense. Drops tomorrow, and y'all, you can order tonight from our favorite woman-owned independent bookstore. That is, of course, Murder by the Book. And y'all know I love mysteries. I love thrillers. And the best part is we can offer you the option of signed books. So Ace is going to the store on the 28th. And the great news is we can queue up pre-orders for you. So here is that link to pre-order. And when you're checking out, in the comments, just say, yes, you would like a signed book and who you'd like it signed to. And when Ace goes to the store, he can sign it to you. We got Father's Day coming up. We've got, you got to think ahead. Birthdays, holidays. I stockpile signed books all year round so that my holiday and birthday shopping is done come
Sarah,
time.
Father's Day is over. It's over.
Oh my God, you're right.
Over. If you haven't got your Father's Day gift, then you're screwed. So all the things that Any bad stuff that you get from the father or the husband, you deserve it if you've already forgotten Father's Day. That's how this stuff happens. Yeah.
You know what, Ace? I was presenting at and co-chairing the Nantucket Book Festival over Father's Day, and I'm totally a week behind. You are right. Father's Day is over. So for anyone else who forgot about Father's Day, you know what? You know what the perfect makeup gift is? A signed book.
That's right. I will add on to that. Murder by the Book is one of the best independent bookstores in the country. It's absolutely wonderful. The owner, McKenna, their owner is a dear friend of mine, wonderful person that has been very supportive of my books for years and years. And so I always love going there. It's like a homecoming. So it's not just another bookstore. It's a very personal store to me.
We have bouquets of hearts just going up on Facebook. Thank you for all the hearts, y'all.
My only problem is when I go to Murder by the Book is it's such a tailor-made bookstore to my interest. Is I go there and sign, and almost immediately after the signing and event, then everything shuts down and the store closes and I have to leave. And I hate it because I always want to get out of there with all the books because they have everything. They have every crime novelist there is and tremendous backlist. It's just like I could spend a hell of a lot of time and a hell of a lot of money there. It's a great place.
Exactly. Renee wants to know, how many other books are you currently working on, Ace? So this is number 30. What else you got in the hopper?
I am working on a novel right now that will be out next year, also from William Morrow. So that's the book that is currently in production.
Great. Margaret's teasing me. She said, "Uh-oh, do we have another Father's Day?" Margaret, you caught me. I'm a week behind in my time. You're so right. Oh, Jane Brannigan Kaufman wants to know, what are you currently reading? Yeah, so when you're looking around that Murder by the Book and you see that fabulous stocks, what's drawing you, Ace?
I think it's not a surprise to you at all, Sarah, and to many people out there that the best, I think some of the best thriller writers there are women today. The women are doing some of the greatest series and great stories and just kicking ass out there. Lisa Unger's The Couple in 3B is wonderful and fantastic and just kind of spooky and just draws you into this really crazy historic apartment building in New York City. And it's got its lighter moments, but it's a very dark, engrossing read. And then I've just gotten into a few other books that have escaped me while I'm on book tour, but I'll remember them shortly.
So Lisa has been on the show, I think 6 times, and she joined us as well for the pre-launch Q&A for The New Couple in 5B, which I agree with you. I absolutely loved. I love historic old buildings, and I loved the ghost element here in this one, which was a new direction for Lisa.
There's some creepy. I mean, if this ever gets made into a film, which it should.
Oh my God.
There's not a lot of jump scares in books, but this is, especially in thrillers, but I did not expect that angle.
That basement scene, oh my God. I was like, I cannot read this book at night. Well, speaking of Miss Unger, she had some wonderful words of praise for your book, Sir. Let's take a peek at what she had to say. I'm just going to pop this up so we can all read it together. Ace Atkins is the Southern noir king. I've been reading him since his debut, and I am consistently wowed by the layers and depth of his characters, the crackling authenticity of his dialogue, and the elegance of his prose. Edgy, richly atmospheric, and often darkly funny. Don't Let the Devil Ride is the work of a master storyteller at the top of his game. This is a must read, says Lisa Unger, New York Times bestselling author of most recently The New Couple in 5B. Wonderful words of praise there. Renee saying she loves Lisa Unger's novels. Me too, Renee. She's so great, isn't she? And she's not the only one who is raving. S.A. Cosby, who's been on the show 4 times, says, "Don't Let the Devil Ride rumbles and rocks." I'm going to pop this up so we can all read it together. Rumbles and rocks like the bottom beat in a Memphis blues tune played by a master. Oops, that's Lisa Unger's one. I popped up the wrong one. He says, Ace Atkins has crafted an instant Southern noir classic that embodies the best aspects of the genre, larger than life characters, wry humor, deep pathos, and storytelling that embrace both the sacred and the profane. What a beautiful bit of reading there.
I think that's one of the great things about being in this business is you get to connect with other writers that you like and you admire, like Lisa and Sean. You get to you get to meet them, so you're not only a book fan, but you get to interact with them, and then it's a pleasure when you write something and they enjoy it as well. But I'm a fan of both of those guys for sure.
Renee says that you are an automatic buy and read for her, Ace. Can't get much higher praise than that, Renee. Thank you so much. Ace, let's talk about these two blurbs, because I noticed that both Lisa and Sean talked about your ability to bring humor to the page. And as I was reading that, I noted that as well. It's actually really hard to be funny on the page and not veer dangerously into cheesy or, stilted. 30 books in, what do you think the secret is to being funny on the page?
I think that real life is funny. And I think that there are moments in Don't Let the Double Ride there are dark and serious moments, but I think as the whole, probably the best compliment I can get for the book is that people enjoyed it and laughed. And I think that that's kind of my worldview and something I share with other writers who I think do have a lot of, even though, like something like, like Sean's book, sometimes it's some very, very dark subject matter, but there's some pieces of dialogue that'll make you laugh out loud. And I think that, like with Lisa, some very raw humor as well. So I like that. And I think for me, being a writer that comes in from kind of a newsroom culture, when I used to be a newspaper reporter, I think that if you couldn't laugh at the dark things or see something with a little bit of brevity or a little bit of levity and humor, I think that you'd go nuts. And so that just wants to be, and also the kind of writers that I'm drawn to. Big fan of, I don't know if you've read Joe Lansdale, but he is just, oh my God, one of the funniest guys in the business, just hilarious. And I don't think my books are quite as satirical as somebody like Carl Hiaasen, but another just wonderful, wonderful writer who just is laugh out loud funny. So that's really where I'm coming from is I hope in the beginning pages is, the thrills and the twists and turns, that's interesting and all. But for me, it's really the spark of humor in the dialogue.
Alan Walters is saying sardonic. Yes, sardonic is a good word. Thank you, Alan. Kim wants to know, what do you enjoy most about your writing process? And what is your writing process? I've been wondering too.
I think what I would enjoy the most probably is the point where you're writing and you really have the idea, you really are zoned in on the characters. And for me, everything is about character. Again, I mean, the plot is one thing, but a lot of times I'll come to a book, if it's a crime novel or a thriller, where the characters are secondary. They're really just kind of chess pieces that people are moving around. And the story, if the story is going to work for me, I've got to believe in these people. I've got to want to spend time with them. So once I have those characters fully formed in my mind, that's really where the fun begins. And so those are the days that I enjoy most, is once I have that world established and then I can return to it. That's the fun.
Sharon wants to know, do you have a favorite character in this novel? Yeah, because as you said, it's an ensemble cast. Did you resonate more?
It is an ensemble cast, and it's kind of hard to explain because I think, I do have a private detective in the story, but this is not a Porter Hayes novel. This is a novel, probably equally or more so about Addison McKellar and her search for the truth. And, and again, I will say something, it's a little bit different. This is not like, she's not gasping and, shocked by her husband's behavior. In fact, she's really been kind of put out with him for a long time. She's not somebody who's desperately in love to find her husband. She just is kind of angry that she's been lied to for so many years. So I love Addison. I love Porter. Porter is a legendary Black detective who's in his mid-70s. He has been around since the early 1970s, working Memphis. He has a great institutional knowledge of the city. He's very sharp and very good at his job. But probably the character that I won't say the favorite character, but I don't know, maybe it's my favorite character. There's a woman in it named Joanna Grayson, and Joanna was a big movie star in the late 1960s. She's British. She came to America in the late 60s, kind of an it girl, where she would have been part of swinging London, and she ends up in Hollywood, and then she ends up in an Elvis movie. And so she thinks this is just the beginning of her career, but it's really kind of the beginning and the end. She doesn't really do much after making this movie with Elvis, but she's always remembered for this film, which was a real film called Easy Come, Easy Go. And she's always remembered for being that. So she moves to Memphis. The novel is set in 2010 for a variety of reasons. And she starts working kind of the trade here in Memphis as far as going to the conventions at Graceland and, going to the local Holiday Inn to sign copies of her self-published book called One Night with You. And then she also dabbles a little bit in the antique trade. She did that in Hollywood for a while. And so that's what kind of gets her into a little bit of trouble here. And I can't tell you exactly what happens, but it's core to the disappearance of Dean McKellar.
Sharon, thank you for the great question. And Dean, thank you. And Ace, thank you for the peek into Addison, Porter, and Joanna, and knowing that you have a special spot in your heart for Joanna. It will give us an extra level of interest as everyone reads it when the book drops tomorrow. Blue is joining us from YouTube. Says, hello from Alabama, Ace. I enjoyed the article in the Memphis newspaper that you shared earlier.
Well, Blue is a good friend of mine and a fellow Alabamian. He lives in he's been wonderful about reading my books, and also is a crime novelist and working in that genre and very knowledgeable about it. So I always love his insight, and glad he saw my piece. I was lucky enough today, which I woke up this morning and I had a message said the interview, because it is a very Memphis centric book. It is something for, if people in Memphis, they're really going to get this book. It's not just casually set in Memphis, and it could have been Atlanta. I mean, it's a kind of my love letter to Memphis. So fortunately, anyway, I woke up today and it was on the front page of the Commercial Appeal, the Memphis newspaper. So I was thrilled about that. A wonderful article by a guy named John Bifus, who's been working for decades here. And so it was a really nice honor.
Well, I liked that you opened the book with a quote that I want to get it right. Memphis is the kind of town where someone finds a $5 bill on the street and complains it ain't a 20. Mm-hmm. Porter Hayes, Inside Detective, March 1977. I thought that was such a funny quote, and it's really set the tone for how you were going to use Memphis as a character, and also Porter.
I stole that quote from a guy, and I just thought it was so true about the outlook on Memphis. And Memphis is a city that you love kind of in spite of its flaws, or for me, you love it for its flaws. You love it for all the reasons why some people don't like it. That's the reason I like it. But there was a guy, very legendary bar owner, guy named Silky O'Sullivan. And he had a bar which still exists down on Beale Street in Memphis. And one night, Silky told me that story. We were talking about Memphis, and I was, kind of being philosophical about Memphis and what it meant. And he gave me that quote, and I always stuck it in the back of my mind.
Silky O'Sullivan sounds like a man with some stories. I want to know more about Silky.
He knew where the bodies were buried for sure.
Well, it was actually really funny when I saw this article that Blue is referencing, because in my book, which is a true story, my real life reporter in 1923 cut her teeth as a reporter at the Memphis Commercial Appeal.
Oh, interesting.
And her mother was the society page editor at the Memphis Commercial Appeal in the early 1900s, and women did not work in newspapers at that time. So it was so interesting to see it come full circle. And I was like, not only do I know this newspaper, I know wrote about two of the women who worked there at the turn of the century. And it's
so was that based on something true? I mean, I know your novel was based on a true story on the actual murder, but were the journalist characters real as well?
Oh, everything. It's nonfiction. It's completely 100% true. It's written in the style of a novel, but all of the characters are real life people, and all of the things are real. Everything happened in real life, and a lot of the dialogue is actually pulled straight from the headlines. And so both Julia Hartman and her mother, Josephine Hartman, worked at the Memphis Commercial Appeal. And I was so excited when I saw that article today that, it's still thriving, and to know that literally 100 years ago, Julia Hartman was working there was really something special.
There's a rich and deep history, and you can still see bits and pieces of what Memphis was like post-Civil War through Reconstruction, and seeing how it was built out on the river and then gradually just moves east. And there's still little pockets where you can go down by the river and see the cobblestones, and I think it must have been a hell of a place. But I love the 20s. I wrote a novel that became it's fiction but heavily based on fact, which again is very similar to yours, which is a murder of a flapper. and it was dealing with the Fatty Arbuckle scandal in 1921. So only 2 years before yours, but I became for a long time obsessed with that era. And even though I primarily have always written books about the Deep South, I had to write about San Francisco in the 1920s.
That Fatty Arbuckle case, yeah, was on my radar as well, because as you said, it was right before this, and that was a crazy case. He was a crazy guy.
He was, and I think that my understanding of it kind of, just a different understanding of a lot of things about that era, which were fascinating to me. And I think I had kind of ideas of what the 20s were like, but the early 1920s, as you well know, weren't that removed from the Victorian era. And you had so many holdovers from the Victorian era that, you think about flappers and F. Scott Fitzgerald and gin and that kind of thing. But this was fascinating because this is the early days of the film business. And for me, and going to San Francisco at that time, and I'm sure for you in New York, almost everywhere was still there. The hotel where it happened at the St. Francis Hotel, and the suite was still there. And there were places where many of the principal characters lived. And it just, I can understand the obsession, and that era was just incredible.
Just incredible. I absolutely loved it and still love it. I'm completely obsessed. Renee wants to know, have you read any of Isabella Maldonado's novels?
I have not. Should I?
She's fantastic. Okay. She's so fantastic. Yeah, you have to. She's been on a bunch of times, and she's absolutely incredible. And her one of her books is in development right now at Netflix with J-Lo producing, directing, and starring.
J-Lo's been having some trouble lately. May slow down a little bit. Things have not gone so well for J-Lo.
Well, let's hope it doesn't slow down Isabella's.
Yeah, kick Ben to the curb. Let her just work on those.
Yeah, bye Ben. # bye Ben.
Yeah.
Blue wants to know, can you drop any hints about what you're working on? Yeah, we want some hints, Ace.
I'll go back to the earlier one, and then I'll answer this one, which I think Ben Affleck would make a great Dean McKellar. I think he would be terrific, because we kind of associate. I think Dean is a very Ben Affleck kind of character. Blue, I will tell you sometime later, but I cannot share very much about this new book. It is somewhat moving in the vein that I have been working in with Don't Let the Devil Ride, which is for a writer that's known as writing kind of gritty Southern, deep Mississippi things. I am now working on an international spy novel. So I'll talk. That's about all I could say about it, but I'm having a lot of fun.
He's keeping us in suspense, as only Ace Atkins can. Brian is joining us from Facebook. Hey. Are you going to be at BoucherCon 2025 in New Orleans?
Brian, I think that I look for any excuse to go to New Orleans. And if BoucherCon is there in 2025, you can pretty much guarantee that I will be down there.
I love it. Renee wants to know, do you write at home or someplace else? Yeah. Do you work at a cafe? Do you have an office? Where do you, anywhere?
Right here. Right
here.
Your spot? This is my office. And I have worked at home in the past, and I have worked at coffee shops, and I've worked at libraries and that kind of thing. But for the last 10 years or so, this is where almost everything is written. Right. I live in Oxford, Mississippi, which is a great literary town. I have some wonderful nationally known writers are based here, and of course the great history of William Faulkner, and it's the legendary Square Books, which is one of the best independents anywhere, is right across the street. Couldn't ask for a better place to write.
Well, clearly it's working for you, Ace, because Michael Connolly, #1 New York Times bestselling author, raves Don't Let the Devil Ride is a great work by Ace Atkins. It's clever, intricate, and moves with unstoppable momentum and twists to the very last page. He's not the only one raving. The New York Times says Ace Atkins' killing honesty sets a new standard for Southern crime fiction. And Publishers Weekly awarded you a starred review, raving that your international intrigue and classic PI sleuthing combine in this deliciously complex thriller from bestseller Atkins, who has loads of fun marrying his hard-boiled sensibility to the gonzo espionage plot and relies on his strengths as a storyteller to keep the whole thing from running off the rails. This should win Atkins oodles of new fans. Congratulations on that. Y'all, the book isn't even out yet. Ace is coming on tonight to give us the exclusive inside scoop and take all of your most pressing questions. Here again is the link to pre-order. The book comes out tomorrow. Signed copies. So the good folks at Murder by the Book, McKenna, John, Sally, and the rest of the team will send this out to you after Ace is in store on the 28th. So whether you're watching with us on Facebook or YouTube, here is that link. Click and order and just say who you want it signed to in the comments as you are checking out. And the fun thing is you can have Ace say anything, to Susie. I'll never tell,
Yeah. Within reason.
Within reason. Yeah, exactly.
Well, everybody there is fantastic. And again, what a wonderful bookstore to support. One of my favorites.
Yeah, Renee is saying all these secrets. Exactly. Someone is, Alan wants to know, was it hard to keep references in the 2010 timeframe?
Alan, I have to tell you, man, 2010 seems like yesterday. So not really. It doesn't seem that long ago. I mean, I think about like back years ago when you think about the difference between the 80s and the 70s and the 60s, and everything was so clearly defined. But I think there were some technology things. I mean, we certainly were not as reliant. It was just right as or right before with iPhones and that kind of thing, and that just changed everything. So there are things that I gladly, with technology, was glad that had not happened yet, and it allowed me to write a little bit more. It is a modern book, and some people might not even notice, but no, I mean, for me, 2010 was just the other day.
I know, I can't believe it was 14 years ago. Wanda wants to say she misses a Memphis barbecue. Did you use barbecue in any way in the plot?
Yes, not necessarily, but Addison's father runs a very well-known Memphis barbecue place called Bluff City Barbecue, and that's kind of what he's known for, is this barbecue place. And he's so successful. And you have these barbecue places in Memphis that have been around for decades and generations, and so part of the story is involving, he's not in the best of health. And so part of the story is really about Addison dealing with her father's health issues, and ultimately what's going to happen to this family-run business. And so that's all part of it.
Well, I could use some Bluff City barbecue right now. Renee saying, Ace, did you read Sarah's book? Now we're going to put Ace directly on the hot seat. If not, you should.
No, I haven't read Sarah's book, but after reading about it, it truly sounds right down my. No, really, it really does. It sounds right down my alley because I'm obsessed with the 20s and the jazz age, and I spent so much time with it. I love the music. I love the early days of jazz, and it's such a post World War I is such an interesting time in America where you really could see America heading in different directions, and it's finally established, coming out of it as a world power, and Americans seeking this independent lifestyle, and women cutting free of the Victorian shackles, and they're just all great stuff. Great historical time to write about.
Yeah, literally cutting free of the shackles of corsets, being able to breathe.
Yes.
Breathing is good.
Yes.
Renee,
cut your hair if you want to. You could do whatever you want.
Although then you were a certain kind of woman if you cut your hair. Then you
smoke a cigarette and drink some gin.
Right, exactly. But it was interesting because even then, when women were cutting their hair, it was seen as a political statement, an act of rebellion. You were a certain kind of woman. And it just kind of astounds me that 100 years later, we're still trying to control women's bodies and how women look and what women do. And it's kind of amazing what has changed and what hasn't changed at all.
That's kind of been a common theme through my books is America, where we are right now, of people who want to roll back time and make things to how they used to be. Well, they weren't so great, for people of color. Things weren't so great for women. The rights of everything. That's not something we want to roll back and get back to that time. And I think that's what's so important about books that address history, is even if it's done through entertainment or through an interesting story, is just bringing this era, because I think we're probably more Americans are more ignorant of history right now than at any other time, and this is why we're in a bad time in America for sure.
Exactly, and I think that is what is so astounding, is that is that there's a really dangerous and concerning trend right now to not want to look at the hard or the ugly parts of history, to just ignore it and literally whitewash it and turn our eyes away and sweep over it. And it's like, no, we have to look at the things that are hard and bad and ugly. We have to be honest about our past. We have to have an honest reckoning, because if we don't, we are going to keep repeating the same old mistakes, and we
Absolutely.
have got to do better. We've got to do better, guys.
No doubt. And I think those are things that I kind of took for granted as being natural philosophical impulses. But I think that that's where you meet so many people that don't read. And even if you pick up a book that's entertainment and it's something about World War II, you get out of it some kind of understanding about the era. You understand something. And I think that people, I remember when I was a kid, adults always had a novel going. They always had a novel going. And a lot of them were historic, like, you're reading James Michener,
Yes.
you're reading James Clavell,
Yes.
you're getting deep into the history of America. But people are very clueless about this country, and it's not perfect, and it's got a checkered past. And where I live in the deep South, God knows we could, talk about that forever, about the deep and sordid history in this neck of the woods. But it's all very important. It's not anything to shy away from. It's just shining the as Robert Penn Warren said, the plain unvarnished truth, and there's nothing wrong with that.
There is nothing wrong with that. And in fact, that's exactly what we need. Well said, Ace. Well said.
Yeah.
Alan saying history is messy. Exactly. History is messy, and that's why we need to deal with it. Robin is saying, oh, you're so kind. Renee wants to know, Ace, what is your favorite kind of barbecue? All right, let's get down into the details of barbecue, because the Southerners got, strong views on barbecue.
That's a good question. So my wife is from North Carolina and is very much of there's Carolina barbecue, there's East and West. I'm sure I'm screwing this up. I think it's the West Carolina is the mustard based, and and I like that. I think it's really delicious. And some of the other Carolina barbecue sauce is a little bit more thin, but the barbecue is usually excellent. The cut of meat and everything is usually not fatty. It's actually very, very good. I hate to tell, previous talking to our friend Blue, who's from Wetumpka, Alabama, which place I know very well. There is some good barbecue in Alabama. Very few great ones, though. So I have to say, overall, on pork barbecue, Memphis is the best. But next week, of course, or this week, I can't believe next week, on Friday, as I will be at Murder by the Book in Houston, I'll have to go somewhere and get some beef barbecue, because we just don't do beef around here. You can't get brisket, and you don't do beef ribs and that kind of thing. So I think they're different. I think you kind of separate them out. So I'd have to say, for pork barbecue, Memphis is the best, but Texas barbecue is amazing.
So I love barbecue. I make a very good barbecue sauce. And you know who else is really good at barbecue? Jeff Devers. He is
the guy, the serial killer writer is excellent.
The serial killer writer.
Yeah.
But he is an amazing.
I don't know if I'd want barbecue at Jeff Devers' house. That seems a little.
I would sign up for barbecue at Jeff Devers' house. And Karen Slaughter has very strong feelings about barbecue. And she says, y'all in Tennessee do barbecue wrong. She says her Georgia barbecue is the only way to barbecue. So we could have a real barbecue off. We have a vegetarian in the audience. Someone saying maybe use a hard tofu and base with veggie burgers. Yeah, barbecue tofu is delicious. I've had it. I've made it. It's absolutely amazing. Alan saying here's here for the vinegar barbecue, South Carolina.
It is very good, Alan. South Carolina is really good too. But some people have a hard time with the vinegar, but I kind of like it. I don't like it.
I love vinegar.
Thick and too much molasses and too much sugar. There's some great stuff in South Carolina.
Y'all, this is making me hungry for some barbecue. I need some Bluff City barbecue right now. So here is the link to pre-order, and you can read all about Alice's father's barbecue and get yourself immersed in this. So here's that link to pre-order. Again, get yourself a signed copy, save it to gift at the holidays. Just put in the comments who you want it signed to. Ace will sign it, and the good folks at Murder by the Book will send it. Ace Atkins, thank you so much. We are out of time. We're over time, but time flies when you're having this much fun. The book is out tomorrow. Oh, last question from Renee. She wants to know, what is your publication? Oh, okay. 2 more questions. Thomas wants to know, will there be more Quinn Colson books?
Thanks, Thomas. Yes, there definitely will be. I think, it was just a weird time to write, post-pandemic and the world kind of sorting itself out. I wrote a series of books set in this one rural county in Mississippi, but lately those ideas have been coming back. So yeah, Quinn will be back for sure. Thank you for asking.
Thank you for asking. Thank you for your Pride flag as well. ITW will be featuring Pride books on Friday of all the incredible Pride books, the books that have come out by LGBTQIA authors this month. There's going to be an incredible list. And Renee wants to know, what is your publication day ritual? How will you celebrate? What a perfect note to end on.
I appreciate that. It doesn't really happen. That's a great idea and a great theory about celebration. Publication day is usually fairly busy. So I'll be getting up in the morning. I do a satellite tour, which is these days checking in with different TV stations and sometimes radio stations. And so you do the morning shows and you're like, good morning, Milwaukee. And then you're like, hey, how's it going? Well, what is your book about? Because they haven't read the book. So you have to explain what the book is about. So you do that for a few hours. And then I kind of leave the office and get a little bit of lunch. And then I think I have a couple more things to do. And then at 5 o'clock here in Oxford, Mississippi, which, like Murder by the Book, is one of the great independent bookstores here in Oxford. And so I walk across the street and I will be with another terrific author, Michael Ferris Smith, who is a wonderful Southern noir writer. If you like Sean Cosby, his books are fantastic. And we will be in conversation. And then after that, you'd think that I would go out and celebrate and have some, barbecue and drinks, but I will be then heading overnight to Memphis, where I will start it all over again and doing the morning shows in Memphis, doing a few other things and stop by book signings. And then I will be at another terrific independent bookstores, because independent bookstores are so good to me and are the lifeblood of any author. I'll be at Novel. And so so it'll be like that all the way to Poison Pen in Phoenix. And then Friday, I will be at Murder by the Book. And then I am at Watermark in Wichita, and then I get a little bit of a break. So yes, no rest for the wicked. It'll be
no rest for the wicked, which means Ace Atkins must be wicked indeed. But thank you for supporting independent bookstores. Thank you for all you do for independent bookstores. Renee saying you should sneak in some celebrating and some barbecue with all of that hard work.
Thanks, Renee. I will do my best. And there are moments. I mean, there are. I'm pretty sure after the event on Friday, I think that I probably. With McKenna or John or Sally or somebody, we'll fit in drinking a little bit of Shiner Bock. That usually is traditional.
I love it. Wanda saying thank you. Robin saying great show, everyone. Everyone saying thank you, Sarah. I can't get to all your comments, y'all, because we're out of time. We're having so much fun. Oh, will you be coming on your tour to Southeast Florida?
Possibly to South Florida, possibly to the Miami Book Fest, and I occasionally will be at the Tampa Bay Times Book Fest as well. I used to be a journalist in Florida, so I'm always happy to return there, certainly during the colder months.
What about Spokane, Washington, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho? Anywhere out there out west?
No, I would love to. I would love to go there as well. So just talk to your independent bookstore and have them put me on the list. And that's the way it works. And they get enough people complain, and finally I get a notification and I'm on a plane. So please talk to your independent bookstores about getting me out that way.
Renee says she'll be at the Miami Book Fest. Thomas says he's so excited Quinn is coming back. He loves the books. And thank you, Ace. Oh, what a perfect note to end on. Y'all, Ace came on to give us the inside scoop on Don't Let the Devil Ride. It's out tomorrow. Here again is that link to pre-order. And you can get a signed book. And that is not always possible. Here it is possible. So please do support independent bookstores and pre-order here. Y'all, thank you so much for spending your Mystery Monday with me. I hope your week is off to a killer start. May the pages and the days fly by, and I will see you next Monday. Take very good care until then.
Thanks, Sarah.